All right, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, so it is officially 5 minutes past noon. Therefore, it is afternoon. So good afternoon from San Antonio. I'm Paul Montalongo, and some of you I know, some of you I'm getting to meet for the first time. I appreciate this. This is recorded. So, manifestation without delusion is the topic, and this is an extension of a presentation I gave to the BIWE group a couple of weeks ago in Katy, Texas. And so some of those folks are on the call, and some other folks from my database are on the call. But what is my intention here for you? My intention is to deliver a presentation that really gets you to ask the question about your situation, about your current status, about where you would like to be versus where you are, and the questions needed to ask to get you to where you want to be, and some answers to help you along that road. And so there's a methodology to what I do. And this, by the way, is based on my lifetime, my life of work, from my real estate profession to all of the mentoring and coaching that I've done, as well as the extensive personal evolution and personal work that I've done. And this is a accumulation of all of that, and it continues to grow. But I want to present with you some of the steps, some of the thoughts that I've come across in my career and in my life to help you get what you want to achieve sooner than later. As I mentioned, there's a Google Drive link in the comments. You can tap on that link. It'll take you to a Google Drive. It has the outline of today's presentation. And then further down the document, it has the answers to the fill in the blanks. And I'll guide you along some of that as well. So let me get over here to my share. As I mentioned, this is called Manifesting Without Delusion. So what do I mean? So manifestation, to me, the definition of manifestation is the exterior appearance of your inner decisions. Now, let me be clear on this also. You can have an appearance on the inside from your inner decisions. In other words, the things that you achieve on the outside, the things that we can all see, the things that the rest of the world can visualize, would be your exterior appearance based on your interior decisions. But you've also made a group of decisions that create your being and who you are on the inside. And sometimes we can see that, and sometimes we cannot. For example, if you made a decision to be an extremely kind, giving person, that could be easy for us to see. We could see your manifestation of that. In all cases, those decisions from the inside, the interior or inner decisions, create or form what we call your identity. And what is your identity? Your identity is nothing more than, well, it's everything about who you are, who you have chosen to be. And everything that happens on the outside, as well as everything that happens on the inside, has been shaped by your identity, how you think about yourself. I recall Tony Robbins one time, many years ago in the 90s, I heard him say that the most powerful force in human existence is the power of a person's identity. So how you think of yourself creates the choices you will make, creates the results that you get, creates the way that you move through the world with your results and with other people. So this idea of our identity and who we really think we are, and who we show up as is extremely important. And as I delivered in the talk a few weeks ago, identity is shaped by three forces. And I'm not going to go into these forces because that was a whole separate presentation. I'm going to go into what gets in the way of these forces. But for clarification, what you focus on, that thing that you zero in on, it expands. If you focus on prosperity, guess what? It expands. If you focus on the problems in the world and the challenges with the economy and the president's tax tariffs and the state of the of health in the world and the negativity, that negativity is going to expand for you. So the great thing about it is that we have a choice. And so what we focus on can expand. Our language, what we say to ourselves on the inside, as well as the words that we share on the outside with ourselves and with others, is a very, very forceful um,
Bunch of books.
a force that shapes us. And then all of this really is wrapped up in the work or the effort that we put into our identity and to what we want to manifest. Because as I've given this illustration, you can go sit under a huge oak tree in the lotus position and just sit there and om and meditate about what you want. Does not mean that you're going to get it. You've got to follow up that action with actual effort and actual work. So if something's not going right for you in your life that you really think that you want, and that you want to manifest, check your focus, check your language, and check the kind of work or the effort that you're putting in to the thing. You don't manifest what you desire, you manifest what your structure can support. So let me get into I'm going to stop this for just a second because I need to get into a different kind of screen. Just a second, please. All right, here we go. All right. So where's the breakdown? Where does the breakdown happen? If you're not obtaining what you think you should be obtaining, then there's a disconnect. And so when there's vision without structure, or when there's desire without identity, or without daily actions, this is where the breakdown happens. So what does this mean? So we have a visual or we visualize a vision, we visualize the thing that we want to achieve, but there's no plan, there's no action, there's no system, there's no process, there's no how to.
Uh,
Now, be very, very clear. By the way, if you want to put yourself on mute, then that way, when we're ready to do Q&A, you can come off mute because I think there's somebody out there without on mute. So if you have a vision without structure, no plan, no methodology, then it's very difficult to manifest that vision. Now, what's interesting about that is that the how is not nearly as important as the vision, as the that or the thing that we want to achieve. Because once we have the vision of what we want to achieve, who we want to become, what we want to happen, then we can support it with the structure. So when there's a breakdown, you might have had the vision, but you didn't have the structure. When the second place to break down is when our desires exceed our identity. In other words, we have shaped who we think we are, and then we have a desire that is beyond that identity. And so there's a breakdown there. For example, you might think of yourself as a billionaire. Well, that's great. Um, or you might say you want to be a billionaire, but you really at your root think of yourself as maybe a thousandaire or 100,000aire or a millionaire. And being a millionaire is not bad. Being 100,000 heir, I don't even know if that's a term. It's not bad. But if we say we want a thing, then it has to be in alignment with who we really think we are, our identity. And then, of course, taking daily actions. If you don't take those steps along the way to achieve that thing that you want to achieve, then there is a breakdown. So, what are the constraints on real growth? Identity often constrains real growth when the effort is mechanical and the identity is structural. So, what do we mean by that? If we're putting in an effort just for the sake of putting in the effort in hopes that the steps alone will get us to a certain point, then there's a breakdown. If our identity is based on structure, in other words, we the best example I can give you is you write down who you want to be, how you want to your identity to be, and it's just a list. It's a rote list to yourself, but there's no real ownership. It's not heart-centered. It's not in line with your values. Maybe it's even a list that somebody else helped you shape. There's no real ownership of that identity. It's mechanical, it's structural, it's by rote. Then that's going to constrain your real growth. And by the way, let's get real clear on this, that your identity today comes from your thought process from yesterday and the day before and last year and your life's experience. You're not the same person today that you were, say, 5 years ago. You're a different version of that person. And so it would stand to reason that you can become a different version of the person you are this time next month, this time next year, certainly in 5 years. Because of the evolution of who we are and how we grow, our identity continues to expand, and therefore our results can continue to expand. Here's the distinction. When you're in effort mode, all right, there's two modes here, effort mode and identity mode. And let's be real clear. When you're in effort mode, effort says, what do I need to do? And usually effort says, what do I need to do in a hurry? But when you're strictly in effort mode, think about the question that rolls around in your head, and that is, what do I need to do? When you're in identity mode, identity says, who do I need or who do I believe I am? And so if you truly believe that you're a healthy, fit, athletic person, and that's your identity, then your results will show it. If your identity inside, you believe that you're a loving, kind, generous, helpful individual, then your outside actions will reflect that. And so that's why we really get clear on our identity and how we think about or believe ourselves to be. Growth stalls when we take on the identity as an operator and not an owner. So when we're in mechanical mode, operating mode, like I've got to get the 1, 2, 3 steps done, then that can stall our growth. When we have what we call struggle instead of stewardship, and let's face it, let's be candid with ourselves. We know when we're in struggle versus we know when we really own something, when we really own an idea, when that idea is ours and we're behind it 100%. There's a different feeling, a different sensation versus when I've got to do something so that I can get to this end result. And then the third thing is when a person associates expansion or growth to risk or to safety or belonging. In other words, if I do this, oh, that's going to be, that could fail. That's risk. Or if I do this, once this happens, I will feel really, really safe and everything will be fine. Or I'm going to do this so that I can be a part of a certain group or a certain mentality or a certain echelon of people or a group. And so those kinds of reasons for doing things can stall our growth. What's the opposite to it? So if we do things because it aligns with our values, because we made a conscious decision to do it, and we are in the state, we are in the place of being that it creates our identity, then we have a much better chance to achieve the thing that we want to achieve. So what does this mean in terms of practical application? So practical ways to align with your intention and your decisions. You can translate your intention into a decision filter. In other words, if you know that you want to accomplish a certain thing, then all of your other decisions, they are in line with that thing. Um, I lost my PowerPoint. There it is. Let's see. Sorry about that, guys. Right. So your intention becomes the filter. In other words, why I'm doing a thing helps you clarify. what scale you're going to do it to, what kind of impact you're going to do, how much freedom it will give you. And so asking yourself, does this action move me toward or away from that intention? I know on this call there are a number of you that are real estate investors and you want to have more real estate to invest in, and you have great reasons for that. I would ask, because I'm a real estate investor also, and I have been in this real estate space for many, many years. And as a business owner, I have to continually ask myself, why am I in business? And yes, money can be an answer, but really, what's behind the money? What does money or wealth offer me that I can move toward and not away from? Does it offer freedom? Does it offer clarity? Does it offer a wider variety of choices? There are more decisions that I can make. Does it offer me a way to help others, give back to my family? And those identities become the filter that you can make a decision through. And you make those decisions based on, is it going to move you toward or closer to your identity or to your intention, or further away? And another practical application is to take one immediate action. How many times have you been literally overwhelmed with what needs to happen, with what you think needs to happen at the end? In other words, you have a goal, you have an objective, and you see the big picture, and you really haven't crunched it down into step by step. You just know that you want that out there, but it seems so overwhelming. It seems so far-fetched. The practical application is you take one immediate action. You take that action, and then the next day you take another action, and it builds upon the previous action. You take another action, and it builds upon the previous actions. And before you know it, you have what we call momentum. In other words, what is the next natural step for you to take? Also, you design your day around identity and not urgency. This is a really key distinction. Now, I just want to show you that this, I hope you can see this. This is my current journal that I'm only maybe 15% deep into. I have a lot of room, but I have dozens and dozens and dozens of these, all the way back to the late 1980s and early 1990s. I've got some friends that might say I was from the 1900s, but in the early 1990s, I think about 1989, 1990 is when I really started taking into to application the idea of journaling. And part of the journaling is an ongoing dialogue with yourself to really help clarify your values, your desires, your dreams, and more importantly, who you need to become or who you will be in order to achieve those. Classic example, and I've told this story many times, that um, when I was divorced, and I met Letitia, and we had both been single for 13 years. I didn't know her, she didn't know me. We'd never crossed paths, even though we coexisted in the same city. We never crossed paths, but I had been through a process where I wanted to identify who my ideal mate would be. And so I had a list, and it had physical characteristics, emotional characteristics, financial, work ethic, family, health and fitness. It just had all of the things that I could think of that I thought this would be an ideal mate for me. That was the first part of the list. The second part of the list was, who did I need to become in order to attract this person? And when I had the first part of the list, and then I took a look at the second part, and I'm like, who do I need to become? Well, I had to get to work. I had to really go down the list and work on a number of things: physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, financially. The things that I thought I needed to work on, I went to work on it. And then um, I created a third list on my own. It said, who do I need to be in order to stay in this relationship forever ever and for in a loving relationship. So our marriage is not a list by any stretch of the imagination, but it helped me clarify where my values were and where I could be the best I could be in a relationship. So I think that's really an important thing, let's say for business. Who do you need to be to attract a certain kind of business, a certain amount of business, a certain financial reward? What is that you want to achieve? And then what are the characteristics that you must own and embody in order to have that success that you've laid out for yourself? And then the third part of that is who do you need to continue to be, or who do you continue growing into in order to expand and grow on those intentions and on your identity? When you think in terms of your identity and your intentions and your values, then all of your decisions go back to those intentions and values. Personally, I really try not to do business with people or entities that don't align with my personal value system and my personal identity. And it's been a process and it's in progress. And sometimes I have caught myself slipping up. For the most part, not so much because I really try to stay aware of it. But you also want to stay aware of who you're doing business with. Since we're talking about business, who you're doing business with, and do they align with your intentions, and do they reinforce your identity? Sometimes blockage is comes in the form of avoidance. There's a challenge out there that's so big, that seems so complicated that you have not had the chance to address in the past, and so it's easier to avoid it. But that's a real severe blockage. Go back a couple of slides. What do? You take a step. You take one immediate action, and then that leads into another action. Momentum usually stops where clarity would require a hard choice. And here's the irony of this, if you're really, really super clear on your identity and your values and who you are and what you want, the hard choices come around more sparingly. They don't come around as often because you're very clear and you're very distinct. And when a hard choice does come along, it doesn't seem as hard because you check in with your values and your identity. This idea of containment, what we're talking about here is um, your identity. It stays contained. It doesn't expand. It doesn't grow. It doesn't evolve. For one of three things, there's a fear of loss. You perceive that you're going to lose something: family, friends, money, status, significance, love. Some of those main things you perceive that they're going to go away and that you can't live without them. So the fear of loss. Oftentimes, there's a fear of identity shift. In other words, we sense ourselves as a certain way. And so when we're stretched or challenged, this shift into being another person or having another element to your identity can feel very uncomfortable and then prevents us from doing the shift. And the other one is the fear of disappointing others. Again, family, friends, loved ones, society, people that we respect. And when your identity is so strong and so clear and your value system is so clear, then the fear of disappointing others diminishes significantly. Show of hands, have you ever felt like you were forcing something, like you were forcing an outcome? You were forcing a deal, you were forcing a relationship, you were forcing some instance or event. Yeah, we all have felt that. That is a sign of misalignment. It's not a sign of uncommitment, non-commitment. It's misalignment. In other words, our actions, our steps are not in harmony with our identity. And so if we're clear about our identity, then we move to the steps that are in alignment with our identity. Anybody ever felt burnout? I've felt burnout many times in my career, a long career. Burnout comes from doing the wrong thing for too long with the wrong energy. So in my case, I didn't identify the thing with the right energy. It felt like like a hassle. It felt like it was a lot of trouble. It felt like I had to put in too much work. Well, that's the wrong energy to go into something. And so that creates burnout. It's not that we don't get tired, or it's not that we don't get a bit overwhelmed sometimes. We're human. But if you're experiencing burnout, it's because the thing that you're doing is not in the right energy and it's been going on too long. So you have two choices: either stop it or and refine it, or change the energy that's wrapped around that thing. Here's the bottom line. If you can get clear on what you want to
Thank you.
manifest, if you can build a structure around it, and if you can take ownership of the energy, the proper energy, then it sets you up for a much, much better experience. So I'm going to jump off here and I'm going to ask if there are any questions along the way here. Who has a really big goal? And you don't have to tell it. Tell me what it is. But who has a really big goal in their head right now that they just know they want, but maybe you're struggling a little bit with how I'm going to achieve it. Anybody? So let's get clear on that, okay? First of all, do your current systems, your schedule, your team, do they support your vision? Are you really clear on your vision? And are you really clear on how your vision lines up with who you are as an individual? And if the answer is no, then it's structure. So if you don't have the systems in place and people aren't, you know, coming along with you, that's a structural issue. If you're unclear about what it is that you want, then that's an identity or a vision issue. And part of that is, at what level do you need to be able to operate to achieve this vision? Do you need more courage? Do you need more persistence? Do you need more understanding? Do you need more grace with yourself? Do you need more knowledge? Like, so if you need more knowledge, then let's back up half a step. Do you have the belief, the identity belief of yourself that you are able to understand this, that you have the intelligence to gain that knowledge? So if it's not the systems, then it's the identity, it's the vision. So those are the two things that you want to check immediately. It's like, do I really believe this? Is this really who I am? Is this really what I want? Do I want it for the right reasons? Does it match my values? And then do I have the structural support behind it? Another thing is, once you've decided or once you've chosen, okay, we'll get to that. That's a great question. What if I feel that it's the money I need to achieve my vision? First of all, thank you very much for being brave and stepping up to say that. All right. Are you on video, Caroline? Can we get you on video? I think you're on audio. Can we get you on video? Oh, there you are. Hello. Okay. So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
How much money is there in the world?
I think there's plenty of money.
There's plenty of money. All right. Is there anything that's too expensive?
Mm, eh, Not exactly. I think it's how you look at it.
There's a difference between something being too expensive and something that you can't afford. Okay. So
Yeah.
I can't afford is different from it's too expensive because there's always somebody that can pay the price.
Mm-hmm.
So the identity here is your belief in yourself about being able to be financially able to do the thing you want to do. And your belief needs to be that there is money everywhere. And money is in exchange for value. And so the money comes to you when the value goes out to others. So let's go to the formula. The first formula is the vision. Yes? Like, do
Mm-hmm.
I deserve it? I'm going to ask these generically for everybody. Do I deserve it? Do I really deserve it? Am I
Mm-hmm.
worthy of it? Does it come to me freely? Am I in full harmony with receiving money? In other words, I'm not in resistance to it. Now, you notice none of those things so far require any actions or work or step by step yet. It's an internal thing, it's a belief.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for many, many years, I just did residential investing. And I literally would say to myself, how in the world how do people go buy those apartment complexes? How do people go buy those big commercial buildings? I don't have that kind of money. I had enough money to do what I was doing, but I didn't have that kind of money. And that was the story. And I didn't even know it was a story. I really, it's just like it was my thought until someone said to me, what if you could go buy an apartment complex? And I just thought, all right, well, let me ask myself that question. What if I could go buy it? And then all of a sudden, and when I say all of a sudden, I mean, literally in a few months, things began to appear because it was now on my radar. And I really felt like there are plenty of other people out there buying apartment complexes. I certainly can do that as well. I've got the experience, I've got the know-how, I've got the drive, I've got the determination. I know I can find the money. I know what a good deal is. In other words, I started proving the case to myself. Understand? But it started with I can do that. So money is an obstacle for you right now if you allow it to be. But if you put your mindset in the place of there's plenty of money, money is a resource, just like bread or water or fuel, it's just a resource and you can get it. So you put yourself in that frame of mind. Now all of a sudden your mind opens up to a whole world of possibilities and you begin to ask yourself a better question. What value do I produce in order to receive money? How easily can money be exchanged with me? How good will other people feel when they do business with me? So these kinds of questions now become your internal dialogue instead of, there's not enough money to do what I want to do. Because eventually there will be. There always is. I mean, I read where Elon Musk, and I don't know if it's true or not because AI is saying so much to us, but he's going to start a new fund and it's going to be a $2 trillion IPO. 2 trillion. And my response to that was, well, if anybody can do it, Elon can, because he's built up so much history, so much confidence in the stuff that he chooses to do. Right. So it starts with asking yourself the right question about the availability of money. Is that helpful? All right. What's your follow-up
Oh, yes.
question to that?
Mm, how do I get how do I get myself to believe that there's actually money when the logic tells me that it's always difficult. You have to work extra hand. You have to.
All right, so let's ask
The
let's
logic,
ask this.
the logic mind or the thinking part of the brain tells you that, it's never been easy. So what makes you think it's easy?
All right. Were you raised around money?
Not so much.
Okay. Tell me your 3 or 4 beliefs about money. You already stated them, but tell them to me again.
Um, I think part of me believes that money is it's somehow scarce in a way. At times it's hard to come by. You have to really work hard to get money. And
Okay.
yes, and
Part of the second step in manifesting is your language. First was focus, second was language, third is effort or work. Your language. So you said a part of me believes that it's hard to get money. Can I say something to you in all the love I can muster up? All of you believes that. Not a part of you, all of you believes that. Otherwise, you would not have said it. So what does that mean? You can change your language. Rather than money is hard to come by,
Mhm.
money is difficult. I have to work hard. It's not around everywhere for everybody. So those things can change. Money is available. Money is fluid. Money is a gift. There's plenty of money. I can provide value for money. And that internal language now becomes your belief. And it's an ongoing thing for us to say there's plenty of money. There's plenty of access to money. We really have to check ourselves a lot because if there's this item out there that you can't afford today, that questions your belief about money.
And how do you get yourself to believe that there is money when you can say it, but it sounds like you're just saying for the sake of saying it?
Mm-hmm. Well, what are you saying now?
Yeah, I can say it, but do I believe it? What if I don't believe? How can I believe until I see?
So you have to see it to believe it?
Maybe, I think so. I think you
Okay,
have to see it to
first of
believe
all,
it.
thanks for playing along. Okay, appreciate it. What if you believed it before you saw it? This is the way that we
Well,
were all conditioned. You have to see it to believe it.
yeah.
But what if you believed it before you saw it? Just what if? Just ask yourself the question, what if I believed it
Mhm.
before I saw it? Start with
Yeah.
that and
What if
write
I
down to
believe it?
yourself 4 or 5
Mhm.
questions. What if I believed it before I saw it? What if it were available everywhere I look? What if money, the arrival of money, surprised me at times that I never even imagined?
Mhm.
Here's a real simple little thing that happened to me last week.
Mhm.
I did a real estate investment about 2 years ago, and we hired a garbage container company. We gave them a deposit. We finished the job. I never got the deposit back. It was about $1,100, and I never thought twice about it. I didn't even know that that I didn't get my deposit back. They sent me an email last week and they said, we need an address to mail you an $1,100 check. And I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. That was a nice surprise that the universe gave me.
Mhm.
I will accept that money. you know? And so, and I hadn't been asking for $1,100 deposit to come back. But when you're open to receiving money and when you're open to receiving the abundance that money gives you, you will find that it arrives more often than not. But it starts with your language to yourself about, I know there's enough money available and money comes to me easily and it's not difficult. Is it going to be work? Yeah. Is it going to be effort? Yeah. But does that work and effort have to be difficult? Do you play any musical instrument by any chance? Neither do I. Do you play sports of any sort? Tell me a hobby that you like.
I love to listen to music.
Okay, you like to listen to music.
Yes.
Is it difficult for you to listen to music?
No,
Is it easy for you to listen to music?
it's easy. Yes, I love it.
Is it available anywhere?
Uh, okay, most of the time I love it on my phone.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
anytime you want to access music, can you just get to it?
Yes. Yes.
Can you do it in your car?
Almost. Yes.
Can you do it at home?
Yes, I can do it walking around.
Can you do it when you take a walk? So music
Yes.
is available to you everywhere.
Hmm.
Do you realize that music is not available to everybody in the world all the time?
Oh.
I think like a third of the world still doesn't have a phone.
Mm.
Okay. So, who told you, where did you learn that music was available?
When I developed the love maybe for it, and I did everything I could to have it available to me whenever I needed to have
All
it.
right. Where did
Yeah.
you learn that money is hard and difficult?
I think since I was a child,
Okay. Can you relearn it?
yes, I believe I can.
I believe you can too. So write down your thoughts about money and write down your positive thoughts that you want to have about money. And just keep
Okay.
writing those down and repeating those to yourself. And now that seems elementary and that seems, kind of silly to some people, but I will tell you
Hmm.
it works. Every level of finances that you want to achieve comes a new belief. So start here, okay?
Hmm.
Your question is not uncommon. Your question is a question that all of us are challenged with at points in our life. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Who else
Thank
would have a
you.
question? All right. Let's go over here to, let's do a bit of a self-diagnosis here. All right. I've got a slide here that'll help with a self-diagnosis. So ask yourself this question and just jot down, if you got a piece of paper, just jot down, where am I still compensating with effort for a lack of alignment? So where am I fooling myself into thinking I'm putting in the work when really I don't really believe what I'm doing? I was just told that this is what I should do, or I just think that this is what I should do. So where am I still compensating with effort for a lack of alignment? And that's a personal question for you. Here's what I'll offer you. This is my calendar. If you'd like to schedule a personal call with me, I work with individuals and companies. Now, the work that I do with individuals is a little bit different from companies. Individuals, I help them align their their values and their intentions, and then create a plan to get those. With companies, I do it, but I do it on a larger scale, obviously, and there's a large accountability factor because it's a larger team and a larger group. But if you'd like to talk to me, you can schedule a personal call with me, and we'll talk about your situation. All right? Let's see. All right. Any other questions? I'm happy to take questions. Thanks, David. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. And